So I recently finished watching Inuyashiki, and it's probably one of my now new favorite animes that I have watched in recent times. This anime came out in 2017 and it was done by Studio Mappa. That's right, the same studio that gave us Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan Season 4, etc. I'm surprised people don't really talk about this series because it does have a really good story. It's one of those animes that you have to really look deep enough to find it, because I feel like the majority of people have either not heard of it or have never watched it, because like I mentioned earlier, not a lot of people talk about this series. But let me tell you, once you actually watch this series is not going to be a series that you will forget, because something that makes this series very unique and something worth remembering is the antagonist. This antagonist is the definition of pure evil. Now, sometimes with antagonists, they usually have to come up with some sort of way as to why they are the people they are, whether it's a traumatic event that happened in their lives, a terrible childhood, the revenge plot, etc. But with Inuyashiki, the antagonist has none of that. In fact, it's just because of their twisted ideals and just how cold-hearted they are as a person, and this antagonist's name is Hiro Shishigami. But before we talk about Hiro Shishigami and why they're truly an evil person, let's talk about what the series is about first. Inuyashiki is a series about our protagonist named Inuyashiki, who is 58 years old and doesn't have the best time right now in his current life. He's dealing with a lot of things in his life that are clearly getting to him. One day when he's outside, him and another person, who we will later find out to be Hiro, are both struck by some sort of light that we will later find out would be aliens, and as a result of this, they are both turned into cyborgs. After discovering his powers, Inuyashiki swears to use his powers only for good and to use it just to save innocent lives. However, Hiro, on the other hand, is a different case, because he uses his powers for his own interest, but also at the same time uses his powers to show just how much of an evil, twisted person he truly is. Now, something that's worth mentioning is that some people may say that the reason why Hiro is the way he is because he became a cyborg. Maybe the impact of him being a cyborg has something to do with his change of personality. However, that is not the case, because we will later find out based on a few flashbacks that we get that Hiro has always been this kind of person. Now, of course, we don't get a complete, fully detailed backstory of how Hiro was before he turned into a cyborg. But what we do learn is that ever since he was a kid, he always had this dark belief that if someone were to die right in front of him, he wouldn't really care, because he doesn't know that person and he never interacted with that person whatsoever. So he wouldn't really feel bad if that person happened to die, showing us very quickly just how he views death, and as long as it's somebody that's not important to him, he could care less as to what happens to the other people. And then later on, we come to find out as well that there was an incident that happened before he turned into a cyborg as well, in which when he was at the train station, somebody actually walked in front of the train, ending his own life. Now, of course, the people around had natural responses. Some people were in complete shock and disbelief, some people were freaking out, and of course, some people were asking for help in order to help this guy out. However, Hiro had a different approach when witnessing all this. Hiro not only was interested in seeing how the body is now that it was struck by a train, but it almost seemed like he had no reaction to whatsoever seeing a lifeless body. But while he didn't react like a very normal person would, he did state that he felt something inside of him. He felt a light after seeing that lifeless body, and this will only be the beginning, because, well, as soon as he got his powers, he will use those powers for his own evil intentions. Very quickly in the series, Hiro uses his powers to kill innocent people. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a man, a woman, a kid, or an elderly. As long as it's somebody that Hiro doesn't know and doesn't care about, he will put an end to their lives like it was nothing. And I think this was greatly shown when Hiro massacred an entire family. After picking a house literally by random, he decides to go in and kill anybody that's in that house. He first kills the wife, then he proceeds to go to the bathroom where the father and his child are, in which they are taking a bath, and then you know what happens. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it is messed up and I don't want to get in trouble by YouTube, but just know that he does kill everybody in the household. And then to make this scene even more messed up, when the girl comes into her house and witnesses her family members literally lying on the ground, he is literally still there waiting for the next person to come. Of course, the girl is distraught and she's really sad at the fact that her whole family has just been murdered, but Hiro seems to be focusing on a different thing, and that is because he asks her if she reads manga. Of course, fearing for her life, she decides to talk to him and says that she does, to which Hiro proceeds to talk about manga with this girl girl, almost as if he has no recollection or really has no guilt whatsoever of what he just did. And sadly, the girl tries to make an escape, but ultimately Hiro ends her life as well. Even though Hiro is a cold-hearted person, that's not to say that he doesn't have anybody that he truly does care about, as the series shows us that Hiro does deeply care about his mother, but also his friend as well, since early on in the series, Hiro tries to help his friend out after he's a victim of bullying. He tries to comfort him by telling him to go back to the school because school is boring without him, but then he proceeds to also show his powers to him, revealing that he's no longer human and that he's a cyborg now. Then later on proceeds to take care of the bullies to make sure that they don't bully him ever again. And while the friend is first conflicted and doesn't really know how to react at the fact that his friend is now a cyborg, he very quickly starts to realize just how twisted Hiro is. Not only does Hiro later on show him just how much chaos he could create with his powers, but unsurprisingly, Hiro decides to show his friend that he could kill the bullies very easily like it's nothing. Now, after this, his friend is obviously scared of him and doesn't want to be friends with him anymore because he can't be with someone that is literally fine with taking people's lives just like that, and ultimately their friendship ends. And then his relationship with his mother is a very interesting case, and when he finds out that his mother has a deadly disease, Hiro uses his powers in order to cure her to make sure that she survives and lives a longer life. Because something that's worth mentioning that I completely forgot was that the cyborg powers also have the ability to cure deadly diseases, and I mean any kind of illness or disease. Like, that's how powerful this ability is. So Hiro uses it to cure her mother, and after that experience, Hiro promises that he is not going to kill anybody anymore and just wants to live a normal life with his mother. But unfortunately that never happens because the police are able to track him down and link him to all the murders and chaos that he has caused, and now he becomes the most wanted criminal in Japan, and he is now on the run. And because of all this, his mother is severely affected by this to the point where she sadly ended her own life. After this, Hiro decides to once again take people's lives, and this most specifically has to do with the trolls on the internet, as he soon later finds out that the people on the internet are not saying great things about him, but also saying not so great things about his mother as well, and proceeds to kill anybody from the internet that either insulted him and or his mother as well. So yeah, very clearly Hiro is back at it again with ending people's lives. But this wouldn't be the last time Hiro will care about other people, because he would soon care about these two particular people, one being a girl named Watanabe and her grandmother. You see, Watanabe actually had a huge crush on Hiro, and even though he was a wanted criminal and a mass murderer, this girl wanted to protect Hiro because that's how much she truly loved him. And of course, this will lead to her inviting Hiro to stay at her place in order to stay hidden from the police. And while Hiro does eventually tell her that he is no human and that he's a cyborg, he also confesses to her that he's not innocent. He is somebody that is capable of killing people with no hesitation whatsoever. But he promises her that they will be together from now on, showing that he started to grow a relationship with this girl, and it's very clear that he did in fact care about this girl. Because for a while, Hiro actually listened to her, in which she told him not to kill anybody and to use his powers for good. And while he did that for a while, ultimately this did not last long, as the police were able to find out that he lived in her house, and so they barged in, and as a result of this, both her and her grandmother did get shot in the middle of the crossfire. While both survived the attack, this was enough for Hiro to once again use his powers to not only declare war with the police, but declare war with the entire country of Japan. Later on, not only does he go to a police headquarters and kills anybody that's in that building, but he also proceeds to go to Shinjuku and proceeds to kill a lot of innocent people. And he also states as well that every day he's going to keep doing that until he takes down Japan. But of course, this plan wouldn't succeed, as once again Inuyashiki exists in this story, proceeds to intervene with his plans. Now, what makes the fight between Inuyashiki and Hiro so memorable is how before they even fought, they exchanged words, in which Inuyashiki calls Hiro a evil person who clearly doesn't value life whatsoever and calls him a villain. Now, Hiro is surprisingly shocked by this statement because he didn't really see himself as a villain, which just goes to show us that Hiro really did think that all his actions were justified, almost as if never once in this entire time he never viewed himself as a bad person. And ultimately this showed showdown will begin. And while Hiro did put a good fight, of course Inuyashiki was able to defeat him. And while he wasn't dead yet, he did lose both of his arms during the fight. But ultimately the way Hiro would die would be by self-sacrificing himself to defeat an asteroid that was heading towards Earth, and an asteroid that Inuyashiki was trying to stop because he wanted to protect his loved ones. Ultimately, Hiro made the self-sacrifice to stop this asteroid because he too had people he cared about. Even though he did all those terrible things, he revealed that he still cared about his old friend. He still cared about Watanabe and her grandmother, showing us that Hiro still in fact did all this just to protect the people that he cared about. And of course, the story would end with both Hiro and Inuyashiki sacrificing themselves to stop this asteroid, and that will be the end of Hiro Shishigami. While Hiro in the final moments of his life did do something heroic, that doesn't justify everything else that he did. He ruined many people's lives. He is a cold-hearted, twisted, and evil person. He used the powers that he got to harm other people. He harmed innocent people for really no reason. There was no real motive as to why Hiro did the things he did. Sure, later on in the series, he had a few reasons why he did things according to him, but ultimately, at the end of the day, he still killed innocent people. He killed people who had nothing to do with him whatsoever. And I think that's the really dark thing about Hiro, is the fact that he was perfectly fine ending someone's life just like that, like they were nothing, because like he stated many times, as long as they weren't people that he knew, he could care less what happened to them. This was a mindset that he had as a kid, and it seems like it never went away. But with that being said, Hiro is still a very good antagonist. He was very threatening. He clearly was a danger for the entire world. If Inuyashiki didn't stop him, Hiro was going to pretty much destroy all of Japan. And that's what I think made Hiro such a very solid antagonist. And really, I think this story is overall great. I really do like it. There's a lot more things that happen in this story, but of course I wanted to mainly focus on Hiro because he's that much of an interesting character. And with that, that's pretty much the entire video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.